Nottingham is the 15th largest city in the UK, and with an urban area population of over 640,000, it can be a very busy place. The city is well known as a centre for shopping, nightlife, sport and industry. But if you're looking for a different, perhaps a quieter style of living, don't despair. A few minutes driving will take you to another world. Welcome back to Woodborough, where, surrounded by countryside and influenced by the seasons, life is more tranquil. This second film will show some different aspects of the village, as well as a few of the changes that have taken place since our first film almost a decade ago.
Dark, wait a minute, it's light, dark, we're dark here.
Woodborough in Bloom has become an important part of village life since being set up in 2005 as a parish council initiative. To give it a high profile from the outset, the village decided to enter the East Midlands in Bloom competition, and thanks to the involvement of the community, we were delighted to get a silver award. Since that time, many features have been placed throughout the village, thanks to grants, donations and lottery funding. It was quickly realised that it would be essential to have a water bowser, which is used by volunteers on a rota during the summer season. The hanging baskets, plant towers and barrier troughs all have water reservoirs in them. The numerous wooden planters and troughs have all been made by a local resident, Barry Sawyer, which has saved the village a huge sum of money. All these have been sponsored by village organisations and groups of residents, illustrating the enormous input by the community. The village pinfold is a very important part of our heritage, but the time has come for some major refurbishment. I asked Laura Wardle of the Community Association to tell me more about it.
Well, all structures need routine maintenance. This was restored in 1978, but unfortunately the restoration hasn't stood the test of time and we've needed to spend more money on it. We also wanted to bring in a more realistic style with stone coping, which is going to be added to the top of the walls. The wall was broken over on that side as well, so that needed mending for safety purposes.
You mentioned money, Laura. Has the village paid for this?
The funding for this restoration project has come from Nottinghamshire Community Foundation with their grassroots scheme. So we've been very lucky to be awarded a decent sum of money to actually cover it. We've also been lucky enough to have some money from Mark Spencer, who's given us a donation. So in actual fact, it's cost the village absolutely nothing.
That's nice. When all of the works have been completed, there will be a storyboard to remind us of the original purpose of the pinfold, and hopefully permanent seating will be installed. Woodborough Park Farm changed hands in 2004, and the new owner, John Charles Jones, is keen to encourage interest in local farming by supporting the Open Farm Sunday scheme. These days, farmers need to diversify, and one way that John does this is to allow 16 acres to be used for growing roses. I asked John about the work of the farm.
I think, as with all farmers, we have to keep a very open mind about what we do. Our core business is essentially producing food, or in our case, producing cattle feed, which ultimately ends up as food. But yes, we have to keep an eye on all forms of diversification, and in our particular case, we're very keen on exploring all opportunities for renewable energy. Obviously, we've got a much bigger project, which you'll be aware of. I don't think there's anybody in the village who's not aware of our plans to put up a turbine on the farm. We see this as being absolutely crucial to the well-being of our business. Unbelievably, the majority of the profit we make on the farm actually comes in the form of support payments from Europe. We all know the financial turmoil that Europe's in, and that's, I think, only going to get worse. And so we do feel that we need, in order to secure our business for the future, then this turbine will play an important part of that. Well, with regard to Open Farm Sunday, as you can see, we're very keen supporters of it. We've done Open Farm Sunday now for, I think it's 7 years, certainly since it started, and I think this year is the most number of farms that's ever been involved, upwards of 350, I believe. And we feel it's a great opportunity to involve local people in the farm, and I mean it never ceases to amaze us that people living right on the edge of the farm often haven't got a clue what's actually going on the farm and what's involved with farming. So it's our bit to help draw people onto the farm, to show them what we do, to show them what we do in farming terms, to show them what we do in environmental stewardship terms, because the two are key, and one can't really be successful without the other.
Another change since our last film has taken place here at Woodborough Hall. What was a nursing home is now a high-class restaurant and hotel, and a popular venue for weddings. Another new arrival on the village scene is the Photographic Club, meeting in the Institute. With everything being digital, there's no need for film and chemicals, and the masterpieces can be viewed straight away.
It usually gives you a
Well, that's the photographic club. Now where shall we go?
Let's all go to the music hall!
There's no entertainment like the good old music hall. That's the place to go to when the evening shadows fall. If you want to start of laughter when you're feeling blue, go and book yourself a seat to line up in review. Let's all go to the
After a lapse of over 20 years, the village again has an amateur dramatics group, the Woodborough Players. The founder, Eileen Freer-Kelsey, tells us more.
Well, I moved into the village in 2000, April 2000, and I looked around and found that there really wasn't an amateur dramatic group. And I'm really keen on Amdram. And I understand there was a group, but it disbanded in the 80s, so I put an advert in the newsletter, the Woodborough News, and for anybody interested in starting a group, a drama group. And I was delighted that, you know, out of everything, 5 teenagers turned up, as well as, you know, some adults. So we had another meeting, and there was such a lot of enthusiasm and support that we started one in May 2004. And we've been going ever since. It's, you know, we're a young group still, but we do old-time musicals, which we're rehearsing for at the moment. We do pantomime. We've just done Snow White, and luckily we involved 11 young kids, and 7 of them had speaking parts, and you know, we were just thrilled, and I was so proud of them all because they really were excellent for the performances. And we do plays, of course, which is what we first were formed to do. So, you know, it's just been going from strength to strength, and I think we've built up a really good reputation because we've always had really good feedback from the audiences. So.
Royal weddings don't come around very often, and with the government granting an extra bank holiday, the village was determined to have a good time. Even the BBC's cameras were there.
Celebrate the royal wedding. The street party here has been going on since about 12 o'clock this morning. We've got a whole program here.
A year later, there's another royal event with the Queen's Diamond Jubilee. The terrible weather of 2012 caused problems with many of the planned events, but the sun shone brightly for Woodborough's street party. As darkness fell, attention turned to the lighting of the beacon in Governor's Field, one of 4,000 beacons throughout the country. With Great Britain hosting the Olympic Games, it was a huge honour for our village to provide one of the torch relay runners. David Burgess was nominated because of his voluntary work with youth organisations and his involvement in the community.
Good afternoon, everybody. Make some noise for our torchbearer. A once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for everybody tuning in. One of 8,000 playing across the UK.
Oh, Stuart! 14 times. Well done. Cheer, scream, ride, make as much noise. Right, go that side then. Harry, Tom.
Sam.
Daniel, stay there.
Sam, you're gonna fall.
By July of 2012, the long period of wet weather had produced waterlogged ground, which, with another torrential downpour, resulted in a flash flood along Main Street. A couple of hours later, the bulk of the water would be gone, but in the meantime, volunteers and homeowners worked hard to minimise the damage. The village school has become one of many up and down the country to take its lead from the Royal Horticultural Society to interest pupils in garden activities. The new sensory garden was opened by the Bishop of Sherwood.
Right, we declare this garden open!
One day till they sprout, 2 days till they open, 3 days till they blossom, 4 days till they pollinate, 5 days till they seed, 6 days till they wilt, 7 days till they die, then they'll rise again.
The youngsters are always ready for some fun and enjoyed their very own Jubilee street party. The Uniformed Organisation's Remembrance Day parade shows just how popular these groups are. The latest news is that the village is once again to have its own scout troop after many years, and hopefully work will soon start on the new scout hall on Linwood Lane. Community Association continued to organise a wide range of activities for both young and old. As well as annual events such as the Senior Citizens Party and the fireworks display, the film nights in the village hall are always popular. Tonight it's Tintin. Another regular favourite, except with the pig, is the annual hog roast at the Nag's Head. Not only is it a great evening out, money raised here helps to fund many other village activities throughout the year.
Oh, look at that, delicious.
And if you happen to see some strange sights in local front gardens, don't worry, it's probably only the annual scarecrow competition.
And the most original, with 19 votes. Drum roll, please. Can we make a drum roll? With 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's George and Ruby Smart. Give everybody a bow and a curtsy and a woo and everything. Well done, big round of applause. Can we have another drum roll for the favourite scarecrow of 2011 at Woodborough? Now before I announce the winner, this is how close it was. These two ladies have been counting votes. And it was down to 1 vote. We have counted 3 times to make sure we've got it right. The winner is Lucy Peacock. Fantastic. Would you like to say a few words? No? Are you going to enter next year for the Olympics?
Yeah. No pressure.
No pressure.
Right, I mean, lots of projects have been ongoing and have already been done.
The association must also take much of the credit for keeping the village looking so attractive. The efforts of the working parties resulted in Woodborough winning the Best Kept Village title for the 3rd year running, and the 2012 title of Champion of Champions across all categories, a marvellous achievement. Anthony Giles has been our vicar for the past 6 years and also has Epperstone, Oxton and Gonalston in his care. I asked him about the role of the church in village life.
I'd suggest that community is important to all people, and especially in a village context, community is perhaps the most important aspect of why people live in a particular part of the country. And spiritually, that's just as important, I would suggest, as any other aspect of life. And certainly the church can play a huge part of being in the heart of a village. Seasonally, the church has always been an important part of the calendar, Easter, Christmas, harvest, especially in a village context. At Christmas time, there's a lot going on in church, and one part of that, just a small part of that, is joining the community together for carols around the Christmas tree. It's a great morning, mince pies, coffee, refreshments as you'd expect, but it's also an opportunity to raise some money for a particular charity. And each year, the choir and those involved in singing and being part of our music have taken on a particular charity and said, let's help them in some small way financially. For a number of years now, on a Wednesday morning every fortnight during term time, we've gathered together parents, carers and 0 to 5-year-olds and invited them to come to church. And we've got some very talented retired teachers and others who have brought their skills and experience and probably most importantly their enthusiasm in telling Bible stories to children. And I know it's hugely valued by people who come along, often into the 30s. We see on a Wednesday morning. A lot of fun, a lot of hard work, but most worthwhile. Looking to the future, the priority is to build on the superb work we're already doing and also to prioritise our work, our pastoral care for older people. And our church council and our staff are looking at that in particular over this next year or two, wanting to know that in this village everyone is a part of the life of this church, whether you're very young or older.
St Swithin's Holiday Club is now in its 5th year and attracts well over 50 young people. The theme for 2012 is the Olympics, and our vicar shows off his sporting prowess. For directory enquiries, he is obviously the man to ring.
I'm not doing very well because I'm not very good at bouncing the ball into the cup. And I'm not very good at water pistol shooting. So I have spoken to the International Olympic Committee and they are considering this next sport for the Olympics. Go!
If catching plastic ducks isn't your sport, it may come as a surprise to learn that Woodborough is the UK's centre for burgle, which was imported from Holland by the Timmermans family. Paul Sale is a keen burglar and told us all about it.
Well, the burglar barn started about 18 years ago. It was formed by Joost Timmerman, based on the game they played in a region of Holland for 2 or 3 centuries. Joost came over here in his rose growing business and wanted to continue, built this barn personally himself and invited members to join. So it's been going now about 18 years. We have about 12 to 14 members, which is ideal because we pay for each time, so you can then change over, have a rest and go back on and play again. And there's mixed ladies and gents, which makes it far more interesting.
The parish council is responsible for many aspects of the village, and one of these is the cemetery. With extra land bought from the adjoining golf course, work started in 2011 to create a turning circle for hearses. Ever since the cemetery opened in the 1880s, the parish council have worked hard to protect this haven of peace and beauty, encouraging wildlife and wildflowers. However, not all is peace and quiet in the village. Increasing traffic brings with it dangerous levels of speed, and the parish council is working closely with the authorities to try to combat this problem. Our Speedwatch convener is Parish Councillor Alison Blinston.
The project itself has actually been started before, so we're really relaunching it after a couple of years. And it's as a result of requests from local residents, particularly on the roads entering and leaving the village. Speed's been a real issue, and the volume of traffic is really significant, especially in the rush hours. So it's an initiative which we hope will actually improve people's attitude towards speeding, and also we hope to be able to introduce traffic calming measures through the Borough Council and the County Council as a result of the volume of traffic that we've recorded.
Our local MP, Mark Spencer, is also backing the Speedwatch campaign.
Yeah, well, basically this is the big society in action, actually. This is the local community taking action, actually doing something to improve the area they live with the support of the police. I think it's absolutely fantastic.
One place you will definitely find peace and quiet is Woodborough's allotments. Since the Enclosure Award at the end of the 16th century, the parish has provided just over 2 acres of land for 30 allotments. Although out of favour at one time, with the current climate of healthy eating, these are now much sought after, and there is a waiting list. The charity trustees who administer the allotments distribute the rental income to needy residents. As their contribution to the general feel-good factor in the village and to help the festive spirit along, every year the parish council transform the Governor's Field with Christmas lights in the trees. This display is next to Main Street and so hopefully gives a warm Christmas glow to everyone who passes through the village. Parish Councillor Jeff Parkinson told me how it all started.
Well, about 8 years ago, Councillor Robert Hanson, who was on the parish council at the time, and himself, we decided that we'd like some Christmas lights to compete with the other villages like Loudon. So we put it to the parish council, and after a little bit of reluctance on their part, we managed to persuade them to buy some lights. The original lights were up for 2 years and they had bulbs in them. Unfortunately, the bulbs weren't resilient to the cold weather and the storage. So eventually we replaced these bulbs with LED bulbs, which are surviving the test of time, and they're also much cheaper to run. So we've now got 25 strings of lights. Originally we wanted to connect to the mains, but national networks wouldn't allow us to do that. So a very kind local resident has allowed us to tap into his electricity supply. A trench was dug by Councillor Ray Robson and Robert Hanson, and we now have a valid supply of mains voltage and also 24 volts. These lights run on 24 volts, so they're completely safe. And we keep putting them up each year.
In the late 1990s, a group of Woodborough local history members decided to form the Woodborough Photographic Recording Group. With lottery funding, we purchased a camera and we set about systematically photographing all buildings of any antiquity in the village. There had been research down the years by various individuals into Woodborough's history, but we felt that the time was right for this to be collated for future generations. We obtained more lottery funding and we therefore, with a computer, set up a website. However, not everyone has a computer, and so, with lottery funding once again, we produced this book, 1870 to 1930, of images. It's been a huge success, it's now in its first reprint, and we've sold something like 1,000 copies. Another initiative was to obtain lottery funding so that we could position heritage information panels in 3 locations in the village.
Evening, Peter, lovely to see you again. Last time we met we talked about your early life.
Yeah. The memories of village residents are also a valuable historical resource, so for some years one of our members, David Rose, has been recording conversations for our archives. Peter Saunders was born in Woodborough and is the son of one of the village school's head teachers, so he has many stories to tell.
My father, who was appointed to the school, he'd only just left college in 1915 and he was appointed head in 1916, and he had 34 years in Woodborough, so that sometimes he taught 2 generations.
A recent project has been a systematic survey of the churchyard, and there is now an accurate map of all the gravestones and their inscriptions on the Recording Group's website. As the inscriptions continue to be eroded by wind and rain and become even more difficult to read, this will become a wonderful resource for both local researchers and historians. The name Manny Foster is well known in Woodborough, and before his death a few years ago, he was deeply interested in the history of the village. In his will, he bequeathed a sum of money for a new bell for St Swithin's Church in memory of his parents. However, the installation of the 6th bell proved to be more difficult than expected. The existing wooden bell frame was found to be in very poor condition, and additional finance had to be raised to construct a new steel frame. The Photographic Recording Group recorded every aspect of the work as part of its commitment to preserving the history of Woodborough. This second film of village life surely leaves no one in any doubt of the vibrant community spirit that exists. If proof were needed of the residents' intense pride in their surroundings, the regular success in Nottinghamshire Best Kept Village competition tells its own story. It was also a wonderful time to make this film, as Woodborough involved itself in the country's celebrations for the royal wedding, the Queen's Diamond Jubilee and the Olympic Games. We hope that we have conveyed the energy that exists in the village, bringing together residents both young and old in the many organisations making Woodborough such a sought-after village in which to live. Finally, let me leave you with a look at the jewel in the crown of our village, the village hall, the venue for so many activities. Just take a look.
We started the club in the Scout Hut, as a matter of fact, which is just across the road. And this was in 1986. And then, for various reasons, we moved to Woodborough Hall, but we heard that this was becoming vacant. It hadn't been vacant before. And so we moved here in 2008. The number of members is about 47 at the moment, don't all come at once, but we usually get 7 or 8 tables. And we take part in various leagues, the Nottingham League, for instance, where we have 2 teams. One is in the top division, and the second one is in the 3rd division. There are 4 divisions altogether. And they enjoy doing that.
Carpet within them. Jude, what have you got to tell us about that helicopter?
It's a police helicopter.
Wow, what does a police helicopter do?
It flies in the sky.
It does. Does it go to help people?
Yeah.
Do you want to show your friends what have you bought today?
It's a stunt bike.
I started working here 5 years ago. When I started working here, we were just operating 4 mornings a week for 26 children a session. In the last 4 years, we've increased our session numbers to 40, and we're now open for full days, which further enables parents to work if they need to. And we've recently been Ofsteded and received the best result ever.
Some baking? You're making biscuits?
As with her newfound friend Snow White, for now in safety dwells. Court jester chuckles to the queen, his made-up story tells how joyfully she receives the news, her heart leaps with delight. Her hated rival now lies dead, and all within the world is right.
Actually, she's run off with that Prince Michael, and they'll both be back soon to give someone the biggest surprise of her life.
Are you Thor?
Not anymore, I've got a cream for it.
No, are you Thor?
He likes his hands.